green light, so no need to queue up. Straight into the session we go, and it is tippy-toe stuff down the pit lane exit road. Of course, water will have built up all around the circuit. What you need in order to improve a racetrack is cars running on it. And we will have that now, but nowhere near as many, of course, as GTD. That will help competitors in order of finding track space and potentially going for a quick time. But then again, do you want to be running with a buddy for the drafting element on the banking?
Yeah, certainly these Michelin tires, they'll pump a goodly amount of water out of the way, no question about that. But it's going to be difficult for these guys. Again, it's been raining pretty hard since the GTD cars completed their 50-minute qualifying session. So the track now is back to where it was before this entire qualifying session began, i.e. pretty horrible. So very, very easy to make a mistake out there. And the drivers have got to be a little bit careful. See, some of them giving themselves a little bit more room compared to everybody else. The Ford GTs, neither of those cars has yet left its pit box. Looks like one of the Porsches still down there as well. Also the SMP Racing Ferrari has not yet made its way off pit lane.
Yeah, so some people deciding to head into the session later than others.
Again, I think just to make sure that you've got a little bit of clear track. I mean, there's no question, is there, that the conditions are going to improve as this 50 minutes goes along. So there's not much point in being out there right now, unless, of course, there is a stoppage that causes the session not to be concluded. But we have to have a minimum of 10 minutes of green flag time in order for the session to be official. So really, there isn't a whole heck of a lot of point in being in there out on track right now, other than get yourself familiar with the conditions, so you are towards the end of the session where you are familiar with how the track is evolving and getting perhaps a little bit drier, but little bit being the emphasis at the moment. A couple of cars coming around the banking now. Risi Ferrari, and hot on its heels I fancy it's one of the Corvettes, making a move there to the inside as we come toward the tri-oval.
Is there also something in the rule book though about we could get qualifying for GTD, GTLM, PC, but then if it's called off in the prototype element of qualifying, then the whole thing is scrapped. Is that right?
No, they'll still use, I think, the classes that have been out to qualify. They'll still use those in the same order, and to start the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship races, the cars will be set in class order. Within each class, you have the prototype cars at the front, then the PC cars behind them. Then there'll be a split on the racetrack, and then the GTLM cars followed by the GTD cars. So the times, if the official session for each group, each class is completed with its 10 minutes, then those will be good to go for the group positions. First
of the Ford GTs is now heading down the pit lane. And the sister car stays where it is, but one more into the session.
Yeah, the SMP Ferrari has departed as well, I think.
And now the other Ford GT will join the session as well. So first of all, we had the 66 taking the plunge.
Yeah, literally.
Quite literally.
Intended, yeah, quite.
And the 67 car now joining it. So almost up to the full complement of GTLM cars. In fact, I think we are now. Don't see any further ones in the pit lane, as coming through out of Speedway Turn 4 and through the tri-oval goes the number 72 Ferrari.
Yeah, that was that car departed just before the two Ford GTs. So the next car next one or two, I think, will be the leader.
And is that the SMP Ferrari? Yes, it is. In the tyre wall down at turn 1. It had literally just finished a quick lap, and 62 Ferrari Risi Competizione Ferrari off as well.
That's at the bus stop chicane.
So it is, yes.
Spin
so braking
for Tony Vielander.
Braking for the bus stop chicane, and the car has switched ends there, facing oncoming traffic as three more GTLMs came through. Quick word from Shea Adam down in the pits.
Well, you said a few minutes ago that you were in a more desirable place than me, being up in the nice dry booth, but actually I was standing in the Ford Corvette's box as it launched out onto the track. Ollie Gavin behind the wheel of that one. He did set the pole time here last year, but his co-driver, Tommy Milner's birthday is today. I thought maybe they would give him a chance to qualifying. No. They said his present is that he is indeed getting a day off, as we have now a red flag.
Not surprising, as a Porsche goes straight on there at turn 1 and very nearly connects with the number 72 Ferrari, which is already in the tyres. Yes, Chase mentioned the red flag, but that Porsche came perilously close there to cleaning out the new 488, which is already pretty damaged, going into 3 deep tyre wall down at turn number 1. That's the bit of track that sort of separates the first bit of the horseshoe from the bit where it returns onto the banking, and thank goodness those tyres are there, because you could be in a situation of a car spinning right across the returning leg of the infield part of the circuit.
He's only 2 car lengths away, less than that, from missing that tyre wall completely.
Yep.
Which I don't like to see.
No, doesn't really bear thinking about that if someone had been leaving the infield and rejoining the banking, but thankfully gently cradled in that 3 deep tyre wall is the Ferrari, but it's lost its rear wing and significant damage to the left-hand side of that Ferrari. It's fixable, certainly, and standing water certainly affecting, yes, the GTLM part of this qualifying session.
These are all proper pro drivers. You know, ABS, many of them consider it to be kind of a hindrance more than a help, to be perfectly honest, but
traction control far better though for the control of a car in wet conditions.
Yeah, probably so, depending on how it's set.
But then again, the 2 incidents that have brought out the red flags were braking zones rather than acceleration zones. It's not cars spinning as they accelerate out of slow corners. That down there,
just simply trying to carry too much speed is what it is. I mean, they both lost it under braking, wasn't there?
And an element of aquaplaning possibly as well.
Right. You know, it is really wet out there, so easily done. It looked like we didn't see Tony Vilander spin, did we? It looked like it was. I don't know whether he lost it under braking or whether he lost it in the middle of the chicane. I fancy he might have lost it in the middle, because the glimpse I saw of the car was kind of toward the exit of that bus stop chicane.
Should tell you, by the way, that Jan Magnussen's done the best GTLM time before the red flag, a 2:05.979. That's not quicker than Norbert Siedler's time, though. Missed out on beating the best GTT time by 0.2 of a second. Second quickest in GTLM, Fred Makovici in the 912 Porsches. Porsche, the 2 Works Porsches didn't really do much at all in free practice 2. I think they were keeping their powder dry and well aware that an accident might happen, so they didn't push really in that session.
It was the same at the Raw as well. In fact, the Porsches were sort of never up towards the front, but never far off the pace either. It was so closely matched at the Royals. Everybody was talking about, well, everybody's sandbagging. You know, he's sandbagging. But at the end of the day, they were incredibly closely matched, so they're all sandbagging to exactly the same degree.
Which seems unlikely, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, you know, I think it shows that they might. Certainly, I don't think anybody was pushing as hard as they could do in the raw test. No question about that in my mind, judging by the lap times. But they were all very, very closely matched, and I think we can expect that going into the race on Saturday.
But in first practice, for example, the 912 car was 3rd fastest, the 911 car was 7th quickest. They were nowhere near the top 10 in free practice 2, and I just think the strategy was, let's dabble with this session but not really go for any times.
Yeah, I think quite a few people weren't really pushing hard, were they? I agree.
Yeah. And then this session is arguably wetter than any of the earlier free practice sessions, and this is the one that matters, of course. So it's tough.
Significantly wetter. I think you're absolutely right. And just judging by the pictures down there in turn 1, as the flatbed truck is out to retrieve the SMP Racing Ferrari.
There is a pond next to that Ferrari,
yes.
And understandably, that car's just
with waves on it.
It's gone skating off, and unabated speed, I would imagine, into the tyres, which are backed with concrete walls, I would say, concrete blocks that no doubt have been pushed back a few feet as well.
Yeah, you can see how the tyres have been bowed there. You know, the car obviously went in at a pretty good lick.
Well, it came through at the end of a quick lap, and I think the 72 was about to go on to another one, in an effort to try and get pole.
It was just about to start its first flying lap, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that car had gone out later than everybody else. So I don't believe. Well, he hadn't. I'm pretty sure turned a timed lap prior to the off. He was just going into his first flying lap. Didn't he make it? Really make it to turn 1, quite frankly.
No, and 2 minutes prior to that, I'm sure turn 1 was nowhere near as treacherous as that, and every time you come round, the conditions have changed again, so difficult to judge I was impressed with the cars following through after the 72, actually being able to turn left at turn 1 and skate their way out into the International Horseshoe.
Jimmy Bruni showing at the wheel of that car.
Of the 72?
Yeah, crikey, that's a surprise.
Yeah, it is a surprise for him to make such a mistake, but even the super pros, if you like, are vulnerable, I think, in these conditions that are so hard to judge.
I agree.
So, plenty of emergency vehicles down there at the moment, more so to kind of protect the car and to get it onto the flatbed. Jimmy's out because they're stretching this car now up the ramps and onto a flatbed trailer.
Yeah, we've had 5 minutes and 8 seconds of green flag time in this GTLM session. The clock currently shows only 4 minutes remaining, so unless the session is extended, perhaps we won't get in the full 10 minutes to make this GTLM session official. That would be a shame.
Ollie Gavin on board the number 3, by the way. Third fastest of the GTLM machines, but way down behind a good gaggle of GTDs.
Jan Magnussen, he was flying, wasn't he? He was on a mission right away off the green flag. He passed the Risi Competizione Ferrari of Tony Villander coming into the tri-oval on the outlap, and was clearly on the case right away, and turned that 2 minutes 05.9. He was the second best lap by Fred Makovici is 209.2 on his first flying lap. So yeah, that was he was right on a mission there, was Jan Magnussen.
And Ollie Gavin, I should say, in the 4 rather. I was mislabelling those columns there. Third in class, but in the number 4 Chevy Corvette. And Dirk Werner in the 25 BMW M6, fourth fastest for the GTLMs, a 2:14.910. But Gavin and Werner behind over 10 GTD times that were set in much better conditions. It's brightening up a little bit, I would suggest, although the rain is still coming down at a fair rate of knots. We may not get any more of this GTLM session. As Jeremy says, a shame. But we may have some improvement for the remaining 2.
Yeah, there is some there is some margin built into the schedule. So with a bit of luck, we will be able to get this back and get this completed. But there's still a fair bit of cleanup still to be done. Now the car has barely yet been moved. It's got a two front wheels on the ramps to go up onto the flatbed, but we're going to be several more minutes before we can get this car out of the way.
Yeah, rear wing certainly no longer there. I'm just trying to assess the rest of the damage. It's difficult because
can't see it all, can we? It's all on the left-hand side of the car. The car buried into the tyres on its left. So it's done a kind of presumably pretty much a complete
I think
180 at least.
Yeah, it's just broken away under braking, or perhaps just that input of left-hand steering necessary to get it into turn 1, and the car's snapped around. Very similar to what happened to the 62 on the far side.
There's the wing.
Oh yes.
Detached.
So that is retrievable for SMP Racing, but no doubt a damaged part, and the supports as well will need replacing.
Finally now the car beginning to be winched onto the flatbed.
So
attractive colour scheme on that car, isn't it? With the red and the different shades of blue along with the white there. Really is a good-looking car. Very distinctive, of course, for SMP. The BR01, BR Engineering 01 P2 car will be part of the prototype ranks this weekend as well. Pretty much the same livery.
It's also very similar though to Ford Chip Ganassi Racing, as John pointed out earlier on. So as we go into dusk and then to dawn, it may be pretty tricky to tell those 2 cars apart on the back straight.
3 cars apart, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't figured out how to tell the 2 Fords apart, actually.
You add the 2 DPs in there as well, because I have to say the Rileys look very similar to the Ford GTs, as you would think, from the same team.
Slightly different blue on the Rileys,
Okay,
the 2 prototype cars from Chip Ganassi Racing. One has
blue front,
and the other one
has a red front.
Yeah,
it's
but
run like that for many years, hasn't it?
I wish they'd done that with the Ford GTs as well, but they haven't. And I guess there's a red rear wing on the, I guess that's number 66 car, I think. So maybe that's the difference between those 2 cars.
Graham Goodwin showing me a photograph of the Ferrari over there, and front right looks to be out of alignment, so possible suspension failure as a result of that crash as well, maybe. Hub failure, something like that. Are we saying cause or effect? Difficult to tell. But I think it was all about the rain, yeah. So now that scene showing signs of people dissipating after the collection of a rather battered and bruised Ferrari. Don't like to see a brand new car 488 looking like that. You give a sort of wry noise there, as if it's not a great.
Glad I don't have to pay for it, Johnny.
Well, true, yes. It'll polish out, Jeremy. It's absolutely fine.
Oh man, they're going to fish it out of the lake down there and bring it back to the pits.
Yes. So that wheel looks in alignment, I would say, the rear right, and the left-hand side though of that car pretty damaged, particularly the rear left corner. So it'll go back now to the paddock for SMP Racing, stroke AF Corsa to assess, and we hope to see that 72 car out for the race. I'm sure it's no question about it being out for the 24 hours.
Well, I hope. I mean, there can't be an awful lot of spare parts on those cars. Brand new cars, of course, the 488 for this season. And as John was saying a little while ago, the number 62 machine for Risi Competizione just literally delivered yesterday or the day before to North America. It had a shakedown, however, at Fiorano at the factory in Maranello in Italy. So it's not without any running, but the good news is, as you were suggesting there, they've got 2 days now to prepare this car pretty much for the race, less a couple of 3 hours. So assuming there's nothing really substantial in terms of suspension damage or chassis damage, that should be plenty of time to repair that car.
That doesn't look too bad. I think the cushioning effect of the tyres has done that car a favour.
All the bodywork on the back there, it's all crumpled across, and it broke the wing off. And these things, they tend maybe sometimes not to look too bad, and then you start taking the bits, take the skin off, and then you say, oh dear, there's that bit, oh dear, oh whoops, oh there's another bit over there. So hopefully it'll be not too bad.
Yeah, the only issue that I can see, gentlemen, for that, not necessarily with the car, but with the drivers, because they won't be able to do their nighttime qualifying. And James Collado, for one, has never raced here before. So that would be interesting to see who, if anybody, gets a waiver. We've got one of the PC cars trying to join in at the end of this session.
So IMSA tends to be more lenient. Le Mans is definitely very much sticklers for that sort of regulation. But here, with the fact that James has done 24-hour races, particularly at Le Mans, with the association there is these days between IMSA and the ACO, the Automobile Club de l'Ouest at Le Mans, I'm sure there will be a waiver applied there. I'm sure he'll be fine. But if he wasn't an experienced driver as James and the other guys on that team, it would be very much a headache.
Graham Goodwin suggests it's the 88 Starworks Motorsport Orica that tried to join in there. Mark Farmay, Sean Johnston, Mara Engel and Felix Rosenquist.
I just wanted to play a bit early.
A bit of a ticking off there, surely, at the very least.
Trying to go out?
Trying to go out and join the session.
It was going to the end of pit lane as the lights went green.
Let's get going.
Car, racetrack. I'm struggling to hold back. Let me out. But their time will come in a moment or two.
Felix Rosenquist, he's still on the entries for that car, isn't he? And he's been busy this week. He's done a couple of days of testing in an IMSA Lights car down at Homestead the last couple of days. Actually set the fastest time. So the reigning champion of the FIA Formula 3 series in Europe, and also the two-time winner of the Macau Grand Prix, really begin to make his mark here in North America. He's not yet decided on his full-time program for 2016, but testing the waters there in the Indy Lights car, driving, I believe, for Bilardi Auto Racing, and setting the fastest time yesterday, about 300 miles or so south of here at Homestead Miami Speedway.
So, sky looks brighter, track not really improving, and looks very, very damp offline.
Just as grey as it was.
I mean, the good thing is the banking drains well. Once it stops raining, then that should dry up pretty swiftly.
The banking drains well, you're right, but the infield doesn't, because it is very flat out there, and there's very little camber on the road, so that certainly takes quite a bit to dry out, and that transition off the banking into turn one is particularly treacherous. Just ask Jimmy Bruni, and there's another car going a little bit wide there into turn one. Was that one of the BMWs? Going a little bit wide, and also the transition onto the banking the exit of the end of the infield section is particularly treacherous as well. And then of course the bus stop chicane on the end of the back straight, that is also tricky because there's again virtually no, well, there is no camber in the road because you're turning across the oval there onto that little bus stop chicane to the left, then to the right again, and left back up onto the banking. So it really is tricky around here.
Another chance for Dirk Werner to improve on his time, doing a 2:14.9 earlier on before we had the red flag, and it was a similar time to Ollie Gavin. So the BMW M6 is out there. The 912 Porsche also circulating. That was the best placed of the works Porsches. Fred Makovic still at the wheel. And
hats off again here to the organisers here, the stewards, the race stewards, because rather than just call that session to a halt, they've extended the time limit, and now we're shown as 9 minutes completed in this session. So the drivers are going to have time here to complete this lap and maybe do one more. The checker flag will be out by the time they complete this lap, but maybe time then just to do one more to get around and set one more flying lap. So again, hats off to the stewards here, Bo Barfield and the race director and the rest of the team. Hats off to them for making that very smart decision. Let's give everybody our money's worth here. Let these drivers get on racetrack and try and settle this on track for the positions to start the race on Saturday.
Splishing and splashing its way through the bus stop chicane is the number 4 Chevy Corvette.
Who was that right up against the banking coming off turn 4, coming towards now in the tri-oval? Was it one of the Fords?
Ollie Gavin, by the way, at the wheel still of the number 4
really
Corvette.
High line there. The kind of James Weaver line, if you like.
Yeah.
Right up against the wall, all the way around the tri-oval as well. Deep onto the brakes there into turn 1. I think that was Joey Hand who just came across the line, moved up briefly into the third position. He's now tipped down a position by Oliver Gavin in car number 3. So it's Jan Magnussen, whose time set earlier on was quickest, but now guess who's to the top of the charts?
No surprise to see Nick Tandy on board the 911 Porsche to go quickest. John Edwards in the number 100 BMW going second fastest to 2:02.497. Alessandro Pierguidi in the 68 Ferrari third quickest to 2:03.309. But as I say that, Fred Makovic joins the sister car at the top of the time. So Tandy and Makovic, 911 and 912. And the Porsches, I mentioned maybe keeping their powder dry earlier on this week. They're coming to the fore now in the wet, Jeremy.
I think Makovic just went straight on there at turn 1, so I don't think this time is going to be an improvement. He's coming now down into the Porsche. It's awfully difficult to see the cars. I'm pretty sure that's a Porsche, and I think it was Makovic. So I don't think he'll see an improvement. So that's probably going to be the best he will do. The checkered flag is out, and so these laps, I didn't see when a checkered flag came out, to be perfectly honest, but I would assume, by the way Makovic went into turn 1, that he was still looking to try and get another lap in before the session is ended.
Should just mention, by the way, it wasn't the 88 PC Orica that tried to join the session. It was actually the number 20 BR1. And the 66 Ford GT has gone off track. The exhaust spitting flames, trying to rejoin. The water will put those flames out very quickly. Off onto the grass it goes.
That was a scary moment for a couple of guys behind him there, because they had to take evasive action to avoid Joey Hand. He had... He lost it coming through the bus stop, coming on towards the exit of that corner, kind of in the middle of the whole thing, and that will cost him any chance of improvement. There's an improvement there for Dirk Werner, moves himself up into 5th position. Number 62 Ferrari of Tony Vilander, he moves ahead of Werner into 5th. There's a Corvette of Oliver Gavin, good enough only for 7th place.
So Tandy, Makovic, John Edwards in the number 100 BMW Team RLL M6. New for 2016, as so many of these cars are. Tony Vilander behind Alessandro Pierguidi. So Ferrari, BMW, Pierguidi, Vilander and Dirk Werner. And Werner, although improving his time, now suddenly finds himself 6th in the class as opposed to 4th, as he was for so long during that red flag.
What a great lap from Nick Tandy. 2:01.408, almost a whole second in hand over his teammate Fred Makovic. Wow, that is just stunning. This guy driving just now with so much confidence. Had a wonderful season last year, of course. Won the Le Mans 24 Hours, won a Petit Le Mans at the end of the season. Well, not only in the class in GTL, won it overall. And he is just riding the crest of a wave, quite literally today, but in terms of his confidence, just magnificent effort again from Nick Tander's Patrick Pilet on the pit wall. I think he's pretty impressed as well.